Greetings, fellow survivors. In today's episode, you'll hear the story of a being who managed to survive the zombie apocalypse by simply deciding not to pay attention to it one bit. No. But before we get started, be sure to pour your energy drink on the like button just to see if it's just sleeping. Subscribe and very quietly hit the little notification bell wherever it is, so you never miss a chapter of this epic saga. So with that, let's go! I heard this story from Spiky one day, where he told me Rupert's story, who he met totally by chance on his way to the foothills. So apparently, Rupert's story begins in the crumbling remnants of a big city, where Rupert fought desperately to survive. The once vibrant city was in ruins, its streets overrun by massive hordes of mindless zombies, and every day was a battle for survival, and hope seemed to fade with each passing moment. Like all of us, Rupert saw friends and loved ones succumb to the infection, transforming them into horrifying creatures hungry for the flesh. Still determined to hold out as long as possible, though, Rupert and his friends, they scoured the devastated city for any advantage, any strategy that could grant them even the smallest glimmer of hope. One very fateful day, while rummaging through an abandoned convenience store, Rupert's party stumbled upon a stash of energy drinks, tucked away on a little shelf down on the floor. So, exhausted and running low on supplies, they decided to grab as many as could fit in their little bags and then carry on. But not wanting to waste anything, they cracked open the cans that they could not fit in their bags and drank up. Well, Rupert, though, he was a little clumsy, kind of like me, and so when he was trying to open the can, it sprayed up and spilled and all down his clothes and rolled and started making a big puddle of energy drink over there in the aisle. And that was so funny to everybody that they all started laughing, which is a really bad idea in the zombie apocalypse. Because that makes a lot of noise, and that's not so good. So, however, what they didn't know was that this little moment would change the course of their desperate struggle. As they got up to leave, they were horrified to see that in the short time they were in the shop, a zombie had entered and was standing squarely in the only door leading out. As another one came in right behind it, there were now two. So Rupert, though, he noticed something particular. The zombies, they seemed to overlook them entirely, their glazed eyes and rotting senses failing to register their presence at all, and they were bumping into each other and randomly wandering about. And one even slid on the energy drink that Rupert just spilled. And so Rupert thought, it's like we just became invisible to them. So, confounded and intrigued, Rupert conducted a daring experiment. Now, this is the moment when he poured some of the energy drink all over his arms and legs and in his hair and took a big gulp, and he was hoping some magic effect would happen, and it did, as he approached the zombies. And everybody saw the zombies continued randomly walking around, completely oblivious to his existence, and rather drawn to the noise of something that was banging to the back of the store. Energized by this newfound revelation, Rupert's party now collected even as many energy drinks as they could carry in their arms and in their pants and then shove them in their socks and all that stuff. And as a last test, though, Rupert, he shouted, "Tequila!" Quite loudly, just to see what the zombies would do. All they did, though, was turn around, looking to see the source of the noise, but then went back to being drawn to the little banging that was out back. Well, with confidence, one of his friends asked Rupert in a normal voice, he goes, "Tequila?" To which Rupert remembers saying that, it was the first word that came to mind. That's kind of funny, Over the following days, the party immersed themselves in the concoction, consuming it like a lifeline and probably getting very little sleep. Yeah, and as added plus, the caffeine, or I don't know what else might be in it, seemed to heighten their senses, granting them a shield against the undead hordes. And armed with this newfound protection, their plan to escape the city to the relative safety of the countryside was suddenly very realistic. However, with every step, Rupert's heart still pounded, fearing the energy drink's effect would wear off, exposing them to the ravenous zombies. But each time they doused themselves in the colorful liquid and took a swig, they regained their invisibility. After days of navigating treacherous streets and narrow escapes, Rupert's party finally reached the city's limits. The once familiar skyscrapers faded into the distance, replaced by the rolling green hills and open fields right before the foothills. It was a sight to behold, the freedom that had eluded them for so long. As they entered the countryside and headed towards the foothills, Rupert and his friends continued to rely on their secret weapon. The energy drinks remained their trusty companions, shielding them from the danger at every turn. Gradually, the encounters with the undead became few and far between, replaced by the sounds of nature and the serenity of a world untouched by the horrors of the zombie apocalypse. Now safe in the countryside, Rupert vowed to share his discovery with others who may still be fighting for survival. They know that the energy drink might not be a foolproof solution, but it provided a glimmer of hope, a sliver of advantage, and an unforgiving world. Yeah. And that's why, too, I always have my little energy drink here, because, Rupert. Yeah, Rupert. And as he ventured outward all alone now, Rupert couldn't help but wonder about the origins of this particular phenomena. What hidden properties did the energy drinks possess? But in the face of uncertainty, one thing remained certain. Rupert had found a way to survive, and just like his weapon, he always kept at least one can handy as his shield. And armed with his newfound knowledge, he would continue to survive in the hope that one day the terrors of the zombie apocalypse would become nothing more than a distant memory. In the little town of Coffee, there lived a being named Frederick, whose disregard for reality was unparalleled. While the rest of the world trembled in the face of the zombie apocalypse, Frederick blissfully carried on with his usual antics as if the walking dead were mere figments of imagination. Each morning, Frederick would saunter down the street, greeting his neighbors who were hiding behind their windows with a happy little wave and a whistle. Oblivious to the hordes of undead lurking nearby, he merrily went about his routine, convinced that the world was as normal as ever. Unbeknownst to Frederick, a strange twist of fate, and maybe the universe itself, seemed to be working in his favor. Every time a zombie shuffled menacingly close, a series of outlandish coincidences would happen, ensuring his survival and perpetuating his state of being. For example, one afternoon, as the story goes, Frederick took his usual shortcut through an abandoned alleyway. Little did he know that a horde of hungry zombies was right around the corner, their rotting teeth ready to sink into their next meal. But as they closed in, a freakish and maybe clumsy fat pigeon swooped down and distracted the undead in its flamboyant antics. Frederick, oblivious to the danger, laughed at the peculiar sight and carried on his way as the horde turned to follow the pigeon in the opposite direction. On another occasion, Frederick found himself trapped in an old abandoned building, totally unaware of the hungry undead clawing at the door. But just as the zombies were about to burst through, a curiously random little earthquake occurred, rattling the structure and causing a pile of bricks to come tumbling down and fall down and trap the zombies. Unfazed by this commotion, Frederick, he just dusted himself off and wandered out of the building unscathed, attributing his escape to his sheer resourcefulness rather than any luck. This cycle of absurd interventions continued, shielding Frederick from the clutches of the undead day after day after day after day after day. Whether it was a conveniently timed parade of llamas distracting the zombies, a sudden rain of falling frogs that thwarted them, or a mischievous little kitten that was leading the undead on a merry little chase, the universe conspired to keep Frederick safe. All the while, he remained blissfully unaware that anything was wrong. News of Frederick's unconventional escapades spread, earning him the reputation of an eccentric and impervious hero. Some whispered that he possessed a secret charm that repelled the undead, while others simply believed that, well, he was the luckiest being alive. So maybe still today, in the charming little town of Coffee, life goes on, with Frederick at the center of his own particular world, perpetually saved by a combination of absurd luck and his steadfast refusal to acknowledge the undeniable presence of the undead. Well, that's all for tonight, friends. I hope you liked this week's stories, and I look forward to seeing you again next Friday for even more. You can even ask for a special one in the comment section. Maybe I know it. Yeah. And if you haven't already, though, be sure to subscribe to our channel to stay tuned for more epic zombie tales. And don't forget to, very quietly, hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the latest stories. So, until we meet again, stay spooky and keep safe. Bye-bye.